evening and welcome to Meticulous Moments. My name is Juanita Kapp. You can reach me at meticulousmacarons@gmail.com or find me on LinkedIn. Since the COVID-19 pandemic hit the globe, I've had the wonderful privilege to meet a wide array of fantastic individuals. These individuals have truly touched my life in so many positive ways. Amongst this group of people, there are authors, public speakers, life coaches, poets, leaders, and visionaries. They are the unsung heroes of our time. Therefore, I decided to start the Meticulous Moments movement out of a sense of my gratitude. It is my way of giving back to the community. Let us share and reshare their stories in an effort to build a better society. Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Meticulous Moments podcast, where we facilitate community upliftment through leadership development. And today, we have the wonderful privilege of spending time with the amazing Andrea Mason. I always call her a determined leader. She's also a digital creator, a personal accountability coach, and she's known as the Global Voice because she's a very salted public speaker. Andrea shared so much knowledge with us. Andrea shared her life story with us. We had an in-depth discussion on leadership, and what she shared is really invaluable. Enjoy this session with us. Be intrigued by her worldview and how it was shaped and how she is using it now to change the world and to make it a better place. We'll see you on the other side. And with that, we just want to say thank you, Andrea, for taking the time and for becoming a part of the Meticulous Moments podcast family. We value you greatly. Good evening, Meticulous Moments audience. Thank you so much for joining us for yet another vibrant session at Meticulous Moments podcast, where we facilitate community upliftment through leadership development. And tonight, we have the wonderful privilege of spending time with the amazing Andrea Mason. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor and privilege to be here, Ms. Juanita. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate the fact that you made time for us to come and share some of your knowledge and wisdom and experience with us this evening. Now, we've had a virtual coffee and we've spoken extensively on Messenger, but to the audience members that are not acquainted with you, would you like to introduce yourself to them, please?
Absolutely. My name is Andrea Mason, your Global Voice, the Global Voice, alumna of Dr. Les Brown and your personal accountability coach, where I bridge the gap from where you are to where you deserve to be and achieve personal freedom through the healing power of forgiveness. It's an honor and privilege to be here with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrea. That is just a wonderful introduction. Yes, absolutely. Those aspects are very important in our lives. Now, I've read up a little bit about you. I went to your Facebook profile just to get some background for the questions to ask to make sure that they are on point. And I want to ask you, on your Facebook profile, it lists that you are a digital creator. And I would like to ask you to elaborate on that for the audience, please.
Absolutely. Well, in the world we live today, we went from a three-dimensional world to a two-dimensional world. Some see it as a treasure, others see it as a tragedy. But in my line of work, it allows me to give back, to expand my network in knowledge and wisdom, and learn about you across the borders and across the waters. I have successfully done over 700 plus YouTube videos of empowerment, learning about and teaching about the industries of social work and psychology and up and coming aspects of what it's like from myself, going from being a victim of a bullying and abuse to becoming victorious as a motivational and global voice.
That is absolutely phenomenal, speaking from your own experience, having gone through it, and now with your servant heart and your people-centered approach, You want to bring that to the audience as well. So that is a phenomenal reason, a very lovely reason, a reason of integral meaning for what you are doing. So digitally, you create content because you want to uplift those that come into contact with you. And that is why you are just a perfect fit for the Meticulous Moments podcast. We are truly blessed to have you here. Now, you also engage quite extensively in public speaking. And I would love for the audience to know just how vast your experience is. We've had a discussion on this, but please enlighten them.
Absolutely. Well, it all started when the world shut down. For 2020 for me was a year of clarity. I remember thumbing through social media saying, now what? What am I going to do with all my expertise, knowledge? I'm an extrovert. I love being around individuals, but the physical doors of the world were shut down for a time. So I decided to step it up to the next level. I decided life is a game and you can either be a spectator, a team player, or on the sidelines just watching it go by. And as for my public speaking, it all started with the spark of connecting with the legendary Dr. Les Brown. He is a motivational speaker. He speaks from his heart. And as a fellow adoptee, he helped me put my piece into the puzzle of the masterpiece of the world, where I have spoken on every corner of this continent and of the world. I've given back and mentored men and women in Africa. I have nurtured and cared and spoken with individuals, orphans, and children in the Middle East. And I have brought it now back to the home front of the triad of Europe, Canada, and the United States. See, it didn't all start sunshines and rainbows. I was adopted. I came from Colombia, South America during the cartel, and my parents had to give me up for an adoption, for a better life, for they were unable to care for themselves. And that allowed me to step into greatness. As my mentor, Dr. Les Brown says, 11 pounds, 11 months old, they didn't know now, but they know then. And Juanita, I stepped into greatness. I became transparent, resilient, and authentic. And as you had mentioned, a woman of integrity. No filter, no excuses, just results and love. And that's what I'm here for. Thank you.
I absolutely love that. I find it fantastic that even in 2020, when there was total chaos in the world, you decided, amongst other leaders, to take that moment, to seize that moment and to make the best of it. And it's very interesting what you said. You're an extroverted person. And for us who are extroverted, it is super hard not to have physical contact with people. And I'm just so thankful that we could all go online. And, you know, if it wasn't for COVID, we probably would have never met.
Right. This is true. Absolutely. Yes. And speaking of Met, I want to take and pay homage to our beautiful sister, Ronnie. Thank you so much for connecting us.
Yes, absolutely. Dr. Rani Sanakudi, she was also on Meticulous Moments. And I remember, you know, after I posted her session, I got this message from her saying, you have to meet this friend of mine. Her name is Andrea Mason. And I thought, yes, let's do it. And networking is just so fabulous because, you know, it really connects the dots and it really brings out the best in all of us. Now, there is a leadership journey that starts with all of us. I've actually met wonderful leaders that are extroverted like yourself and me, but I've also met wonderful leaders that are introverted. And every time I ask them this question, I am just astounded by the answers that I receive. Where did your leadership journey start?
Yes, my leadership journey started from the empowerment, encouragement from my parents. My parents were elite bankers, very successful, and they welcomed me with unconditional love and open arms. But what still resounds in my ear today is, Andrea, no matter what you do what you love, do your best, and do it right. And that was the diving board that allowed me to excel because I had to work 10 times harder than the average individual. I had to find that missing piece. Remember, I was born during the cartel. There's no medical records or photographs of any of my family. And so that missing piece was prevalent. And I had to do everything. And I learned and taught myself to be a leader. Because if you don't do it, nobody's going to do it for you. And that's what allowed me to step into my authentic self. I'm going to tell you like it is. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be trustworthy. But I am also going to walk beside you every step of the way. For it's not my life to lead, to tell you how to live your life, nor is it my role to guide you, to push you outside of your comfort zone when you're not ready. And my parents, I instill in them as my heroes of inspiration, especially alongside with my biological parents. They took leadership. They took a chance. They took a risk. And they put me up for a better life as opposed to a bitter or non-existent life. And it's for my poor parents. I'm grateful to have it drop that leadership quality into me.
What an inspiring story. What an inspiring story. What you've been through has really become your passion. It has become your purpose. And I always say to people when I life coach them, when I lead them, when I give them training, where power and passion and purpose meet, that is where the magic happens. And you know, Andrea, when you speak, I can just see the happiness flowing from you. You are in your constant flow. You are happy. You are in that spot where you need to be, and you're fulfilling the role that you are meant to fulfill. So we thank you for taking up the reins of that leadership, and also for being here this evening, and for, just conveying that over to the audience, because there's someone listening and there's someone watching that needs to hear this. Now, as leaders, we are strong because we go through trials, we go through tribulations. Our character is shaped. When people ask me about 2020, I always say that 2020 was a very character shaping year. Now, I want to ask you, we are leaders, but we're still human. We can do many things. We can move mountains sometimes with, the things that we do and the faith that we have, but still we are human and we also have fears. What is your biggest fear as an entrepreneur?
Well, that's an amazing question. And I wish people understand my response, as it's not of grandiosity or to boast. My biggest fear was success. Why? Because my entire life I've been challenged. I've been, as you had said, through trials and tribulations, bullied, thrown into garbage cans, shoved into lockers, abandoned, abused physically, mentally, sexually, spiritually, and emotionally. So I knew nothing but failure. As hard as I would try, as hard as I was fail. But as Dr. Les Brown has told me, if you fall on your back, make sure you fall on your back so if you can look up, you can get up. And that's what I have done. What was the biggest turning point in my life was scrolling through the social media. What do I do now? And on the recording was Mr. Les Brown at the time saying, are you going through it or are you growing through it? And it was my time. See, when we are younger, our story is told to us. But at one point, and at what point do you take the pen in your own hands and start writing your story? And 2020 was that for me, a year of clarity, a year of integrity, and a year to be vulnerable and transparent. Because it's one thing to be successful. It's one thing to be a failure. But it's more important that you be human, you be authentic, and you be a woman of your word or man of your word. Absolutely.
Amen. Absolutely. And I find that people latch onto us as leaders so much more if they realize that we are our authentic selves. You said something very important. You said we should remember that we are human. We should bring out those emotions. Sometimes, leaders also have weaknesses, not to say, if you're a leader, that you are perfect. And when we make that plainly clear to people, that is when they really, really appreciate us and they follow our guidance even more, because they need to know that we also face struggles. And there's a reason why there is that saying, no man is an island. Now, I always work with the youngsters as well, young adults as well, and couples that are starting out and business partners that are starting out. And I always tell them that, when we are in school, we are very dependent upon our parents and our school structure and other structures as well, and our friends. And when we move out of school and we go to university, we become a little bit more independent. And when we start to work, we are completely independent. But there's something that we will always be. And it doesn't matter which field of study we are. It doesn't matter, what teachings we've undergone or what degrees or master's degrees we have. We will always, forever and always be interdependent. And leadership makes that plainly clear. And I think authentic leadership helps people to relate to their leader so that they will be less, difficult sometimes to be interdependent. So there are difficult teams out there, but having fears as an entrepreneur of success, that is a true fear. And I think sometimes people are on the brink of that breakthrough, and that fear is there because they realize if the success happens, it will transform their lives completely. Now, I want to ask you, because you are extremely busy. I know you are. You're a mom, you're a wife, you do everything. You're a digital creator, you're a public speaker. There's so much going on all the time. What does your routine look like every day?
Well, first and foremost, my routine is to make sure that I am healthy, that I am mentally balanced. Life balanced, if you will. See, I used to talking about interdependency in the industries that I've worked at and served over some decades in the mental health industries of social work and psychology. We saw independence as being selfish. Society has put that label on it, that if you're taking care of yourself, you're not helping others. And then you had the empaths, such as myself, that cared for others, but then didn't care for myself. And it was an enmeshed relationship, that of inability. And what do I mean by that? Enabling others, doing it for them as opposed to teaching them. And my daily routine is making sure that I pour the foundation for my family, my clientele, my network, my family, my extended family and friendships and all the connections, that we are on the same page. It's called effective communication and effective listening. And in doing so, when we are on the same page, we hold each other accountable, we be mindful of our responsibilities, and we work together towards success. Whether you're in a family of a home with other individuals, communication is key. You have to make sure that you are in conjunction and balance with one another. And one of the key lessons I've learned throughout all of my industries and roles and the many hats that I've worn is once you put an expectation on another person, you're putting yourself and setting yourself up for disappointment. You had mentioned strongly as a coach, as a parent, as a family member, as a spouse, as a leader. Yeah. It is one thing to empower others, but it's another to enable. And when you enable, you are setting up not only them, but yourself for disappointment. And once we become a service to others, we should only be a service to others after our cup is overflowing. Absolutely. So going back to what I said, having impact upon others is so significant. When we look at our daily routine, first we have to make sure we are intact. Our health is our number one asset. And without our health, we are not here. So we have to keep that in mind. Self-care, self-love is worth every penny, because what you place upon yourself is what you emulate to others.
I agree with you, Andrea. I'm so delighted that you are bringing up this point because I myself was conditioned, I'd like to say conditioned, into thinking while I was in the ministry full time that taking care of me first is selfish, like you've mentioned. That's what I believed.
Mhm.
And if I did something for myself, I felt so guilty. If I placed myself first before others or before an event, if I felt like I wanted to say, I feel too tired to do something, I felt so guilty. And that
Yes.
was worse. That feeling was worse than just saying, okay, I'll be there. So I
Right.
ended up being the bride at every wedding. I was the corpse at every funeral, and I ended up burning out completely. And you know
Mhm.
what happened when I burned out? Nobody cared.
Yes.
Their programs went on, and I had to pick up the pieces of my health
Yeah.
alone. Yeah?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because the fact is, when you put yourself last in line, you are always just going to be last in line. And how can we then serve and be, optimally busy with what we are supposed to be? I'm so happy that you mentioned that. Thank you. I also
Yes.
had a live the other day with J.R. Spear, and we were
Mhm.
talking at our short business talk with J.R. and Jay every Monday morning. And we were talking about the fact that we have to pace ourselves and that we have to look after our health. And we were talking about the health and wellness industry. That's really something that never goes out of style because
Right.
health is super important.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It is really important because when we are living our lives, if you will, and working on fumes, we're exhausted, we're tired.
Yeah.
And one of the misconceptions and misunderstandings in life is that we must multitask. Well, I'll be the first to tell you that that's a myth that needs to be busted.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if you're not giving 100% in what you are
Yes.
doing, then why even bother? And I remember health and wellness is so significant because
Yeah.
after I had lost my mother in 2007,
Mhm.
I just decided to shut away from the world. This was an individual that I had confided in and put everything in my power and then some, and never can be replaced. But I just went about my business. I had clients to service, family to tend to, and friends to help out. And when I realized wasn't until years later, Juanita, years later, my mother passed in 2007. It wasn't until February 2016
Yeah.
that it got the better of me. I remember waking up, getting ready to go about my business and service others, and I didn't feel quite right. And in doing so, I took care of myself momentarily, and then I realized that I had difficulty breathing. And I had an apparatus that was an as needed basis just for, my exercise induced asthma that had occurred. Make a long story short, and to be mindful of the time, I misplaced my mental health and physical health. I put it aside. Only to realize less than 24 hours later, I was called back. There was an oversight of the tests that came back negative, and I was stage 5 of myasthenia gravis. And for those of you who don't know, that's a complete shutdown of your autoimmune system. And I ended up waking up, going back, doctor's orders, and I said, I'm fine, it's okay. And the nurse said, this is doctor's orders. As soon as the news was relinquished to me, next thing I knew, I was on the ICU unit hooked up to machines, unable to breathe. I remember that time speaking with my family, saying they need for me to be home. This is not how I should live my life. You were healthy a few moments ago, but stress is the silent, taker, if you will. I'm very particular with my words. Other people can call it other titles. But take care of yourself.
Yes.
But we don't know if we're here today or gone tomorrow. We don't have that ticket of exit. So it's important that we be mindful what's in our minds. The late great Bob Proctor, mind, what's in your mind that matters, and it's the matter in your mind that matters most.
I love that quote. Absolutely stunning quote. I love what you've shared with us, and I pray that the audience will be mindful of your words, because I too at some point in my life was not. And believe you me, it took me years to regain my health.
Yes.
It took so much effort. Now I've learned, but I've learned the hard way. Now I've learned, Andrea, if I'm too tired to do something, if I'm supposed to do something, and I feel my body is speaking to me, my words on my voice note or on my call or on my messages, my body is speaking to me, I cannot join today. We can move it to another date and time. Because, the world is not going to end if we do it not on that same day. But our health, like you've said, is super important. And I think family values as a leader, very important. And I want to ask you, because you have a strong foundational, you have morals, you have values, strong foundational leadership. How important are good family values in the life of a leader?
Absolutely. My family member had said, it's one thing to care for the house on an external level, but it starts within the home.
Mm-hmm.
We must realize is we must be mindful. One of the journeys and lessons that I've learned on my journey in this life is that we are raised with certain morals, ethics, and values.
Yeah.
But we have the free will and the opportunity to explore and inquire more, to see as we develop and evolve based on our personal experiences and life. There may have been shifts. There may have been transformation. It doesn't make you right or wrong. It's just altering and sharpening the lens of your life, of your vision on what you parallel to. And when we realize that we can civilly and respectfully agree to disagree, that's when we rise and unite to understand the diversities of amongst the cultures, lifestyles, and creeds. But the underlying thread that we possess most is we want to be loved, we want to be understood,
always
want to have impact and influence. And family values doesn't have to be a bloodline. I don't know any of my bloodline.
Yeah.
And family values over the past couple of years have been in conjunction with yourself. People I meet that have the same alignment and values. And if they differ, that's okay too. That widens my knowledge and wisdom about the world. That we don't have to be imperfect. We don't have to be isolated. We have to grow and understand one another. That we all have a same story. We all have a book of life. It's which chapter and what experiences that you are in at that moment in your life. And family can mean corporations, can mean bloodlines, can mean the people you surround yourself. And I'm reminded by my biggest influencer, the great late Walt Disney. And one of his movies that was very powerful growing, as I was, preparing for my stages of parenthood was Lilo and Stitch. And the Hawaiian, creed. Ohana means family. Family means no one gets behind, nor no one gets left behind nor forgotten. And that's what I truly feel. Every connection I have with an individual, personal, professional, or even on the street, that's a connection, a human connection, where I can learn, listen, and love without dictatorship, without influence, without conditioning. I like that word, and I may adopt that word. So thank you.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Yes, I also have family that are not really my family, but I've so, grown on me and I've grown on them, and we have just bonded and across cultures and across religions and across borders, because these are the things that are important that we see, that there's so many things that unite us simply as humankind. And I said
Right.
to someone the other day, in COVID, COVID actually made it clear that none of those other things that people sometimes have hang-ups on are even important, because all of society faced the same virus. All of society, it didn't matter, what status they had, what they studied, what culture they were, where they lived. Everyone faced COVID. And I think in a way, it brought us all closer together, and it kind of breached those boundaries. Thank you very much. That's a very fresh point of view on that. I loved your answer. Absolutely phenomenal. I had a discussion with someone in one of my earlier interviews this year about the importance of knowledge and the importance of experience, and he had a very unique view on these two. And I wanted to ask you, in your opinion, what is more important, knowledge or experience, or a combination? What in your opinion is, when we work with leaders, when we are training people, or when we've trained them and we've kind of put them out there to excel, what is your opinion?
Absolutely. It's a great question. And I'm reminded by Albert Einstein's quote, knowledge will only get you so far, but imagination encircles the world. And I believe imagination is through experience. We can learn as much as we can. There's so much media and digital information at our fingertips, but it's the experience. If you go on one website and look at, let's just say, I don't know, take a topic of fear. You will interpret that material statistically and factually from the author gathering information. But if I read the same article, I'd have a different spotlight on what fear means to me. Mm-hmm. And our leaders, some of them, all due respect, just remember getting there. Just remember being at the top. That's their stature, that's their label, that's their role. But I'm admired by the leaders that remember where they were, that went back and lifted people up. And, it's the experience, that's the connection, that's the resonance that you have with an individual. The experience. Knowledge, yes, you can teach me how to, navigate a ship or pilot a plane. It's great. But I can get that from a textbook as well and know the primary function. But where is it in the textbook that says, well, your stomach might feel a little adjusted. You might feel tingling down the spine. That reminds you of when you were a child and the lights were turned off. It's the experience. It's the connection, the personal resonance that you have with that. That's going to allow you to connect with your audience, connect with the people you're teaching, and allow them to say, hey, you know what? I haven't experienced that yet, but thank you for sharing with me what to expect. And thank you for being with me during that experience when it arises, should it have.
Wonderful answer. Absolutely true. We have, through our experience, we grow. You can only, the knowledge will be in your mind and in your heart, but you won't be able to practically fulfill your role. And you mentioned something very important. You said when we read something on the internet, everyone actually interprets that in another manner. And that brings us back to our backgrounds. Different people have different worldviews. And I've seen in the ministry, I did these type of leadership trainings with them. I would put a table with a vase and flowers and a book, and I would ask 4 different leaders during our training to describe what they saw. And everyone would describe it differently. The one person would focus on the beautiful tablecloth, and to the other person, the vase stood out. And to the other person, the flowers were the most beautiful, and the other one wanted the book. And that is the human anomaly. But we have to, if those 4 leaders go through the same experience, they will interpret what they see the same. There will be more correlation. So I love what you said there. Absolutely.
I mean, think about it. When you have a family reunion or the holidays as they are approaching, you have a conversation around the dinner table, and you say, oh, remember when aunt or uncle so-and-so did this? You can be at the same functioning, the same memory, but have different movie screens. And that was displayed, which I learned through the 5 Agreements by Don Ruiz.
Yeah.
Everybody's perspective is different in experience. The textbook only gets the facts, the non-emotional components. And it's the emotional components, the empathy moments, and the resonance that really allows people to connect further.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I agree with you. And, we are driven by different things. Yes. We are passionate about different things. And I wanted to ask you, you excel at leadership. You've transcended so many boundaries, considering what you were up against in your life, what you went through, what you made of it. You didn't stop. You continued. What drives you?
What drives me, I truly believe, is just wanting to help people. Someone, somewhere, at one point in their life, has been in the dark or is still in the dark. And being the light for that person, saying, I'm extending my hand to help you. I know what you're going through. It doesn't have to be this way forever. And what drives me is the connection, the human connection of somebody else. Just listening and learning about their stories, learning another way to love, another way to view things. And what drives me is I truly believe what drives me is the passion I have to connect with others. The connectivity is most important.
Beautiful relationship building, absolutely imperative, vital in leadership building with teams, working with it. And that's your passion, and that's what drives you. So no, that is a wonderful answer. Thank you so much. And, in the work environment, we see so much. We see wonderful things happening. We see the worst of the worst as well. We meet people, we engage with people. Sometimes we see the best side of them. Sometimes we see their worst sides. What in the work environment upsets you?
I believe what upsets me in the work environment is micromanagement. You are there, whether it be employee, employer, or colleague. You're there to develop a team, to problem solve, to find the solution to the problem as opposed to adding on to the problem. And what happens with micromanagement? You're causing discomfort, self-doubt, lack of trust amongst your community, and you're focusing on the negative components in the environment. And when you allow yourself to say, hey, I hired this person for such a role. This person hired me for this role. And it goes back to what I said in the beginning. Effective listening and communication. Because in the work environment, you don't know what that person went through before they punched the time clock. You don't know what happened, if they got a good night's sleep, if their child or her baby was crying, if they weren't feeling well. And to nitpick and micromanage to another, whether it be your boss, your colleague, or your clientele, customer service is important because it's customary service is what allows the connection to grow.
Beautiful, absolutely true. I actually did a post in the Connected Leaders Academy, and I said, and I also posted it on LinkedIn. I said, I've heard of micromanagers, and I've been, managed like that. But I've never heard of micro leaders. And I said, when you lead, make sure you lead well. Because it's very easy to nitpick and to find fault. And I always tell people, if you're looking for a mistake, you're going to find it. But what makes you a better leader is if you look for the good in people and if you give people the benefit of the doubt.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Agree completely. Absolutely. Because you don't know what that other person is doing. You don't know
Yeah.
what they've been through or what's going on in their mind.
Mm.
All it takes is to either the act or the word smile.
Beautiful.
And that's
Love
what
that.
yeah.
Love that. Love that. Last night I was in the 17-year celebration of Shine On Angel Marie Monticelli. And she asked me, how do I ignite and inspire people? And I said with my smile, I give them love and acceptance unconditionally.
Yes. Because if it's important, if we are judging others, then we are basically sabotaging everything that we were made and created for. That's not our role.
That is so super true. I love that. I love that. Tell me, Andrea, what was the worst display of leadership that you've ever seen or encountered?
Oh my goodness. Where do I start? No, let me be honest. Probably the worst display of leadership that I've ever seen was a leader that they didn't say this, but it was so prominent. Do as I say, not as I do. And I can give a quick nutshell of every part of my aspect and role in my career. Was when I was in the social work and psychology industries, I kind of took under the thread that no matter who you are, you and I and the audience this evening have been a name on a therapeutic couch somewhere at some time, whether we lost someone or we hurt someone, maybe intentionally, maybe subconsciously, but maybe not. That's another segment.
Yeah.
But when you have someone that you look up to and you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's and doing everything in its due diligence to make sure you are doing everything, and then it's frowned upon or taken for granted, that's probably the most difficult thing. And I'll give a quick story if I may.
Yes, of course.
I was hired to an elite position in an industry that was unbeknownst to me. I was always in the mental health and motivational and wellness segments. Well, I was hired for this particular industry, and they loved the resources and references because of my driven work ethic, acting with integrity and diligence and punctuality and attention to detail. Well, fast forward, the business was in jeopardy. There were some policies and procedures that weren't up to code.
Yeah.
So I made it, although several nights of fear and tears, I decided I was going to do what I felt in that message from my parents earlier in the segment. Andrea, do what you love, do what you like, do what you love, but do it right.
Yes.
So I reached out to the facilitator, the top facilitator, where I had to submit these adjustments, reports, and cues. And I said, look, this is the situation where we are. I was hired. This is the role. This is the areas of improvement I have to modify. The person on the other side of the phone was just like, wow, okay, this is, they were kind of taken aback. I said, I'm not familiar with these codes, etc. And I said, would you mind walking along with me to make sure, to assure this is done properly? They accepted, and everything was done accordingly. I handed everything in the day of its due date, exceeded all of the points that had to be done, rectified the areas of improvement, and then went above and beyond the previous quarter or fiscal year's expectation.
Yes.
And at the time of submission, within probably a few hours later, we decided to go separate ways.
Oh my goodness.
And I was just taken aback. I was doing everything right. You knew the grounds of hiring me. You knew my levels of experience. And you also knew that I went above and beyond, was bold enough and brave enough to be vulnerable, to share my areas of improvement and lack. And I was able to supersede and connect and save everything, only to decide to part ways. That was a difficult, jagged hill, but it was a stepping stone to prove to myself, as in the 80s genre of Back to the Future.
Yes.
You put your mind to if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. And that is what has propelled me to always take a leap of faith. Heart and not the hurt. For me and you, success and happiness will always be on the other side.
Amen. I love that, and I can relate in so many ways. You know, there's no psychological safe space that I've seen ever in corporate spaces anymore. You either just deal with it, but you don't tell anyone. That's what they are cultivating. It's not supposed to be that way, but that's how it is. And yes, I'm glad to hear that. Yes, they find a replacement tomorrow. If you are finished and burned out, they replace you. And I'm happy to hear your testimony with my testimony to the audience that doesn't have to be the way. So if you are watching this evening and you are in a corporate space and you are in control of many lives, make sure to create that psychological safe space that when people are vulnerable, they are able to do so safely. I love what you said. Thank you so much, Andrea. I did not know this about you, but I'm very happy that you shared it with us.
No, absolutely. In life, we must aim for being irreplaceable.
Yes.
Because your gifts, skills, and talents are maybe your areas of improvement and vice versa.
Beautiful.
If you are a leader out there and you're a corporate at the top, do your research, do your studies, because I'll be honest, they're in the corporate realm. They only know their role and what their understudy is, if you will.
Yeah.
Nobody knows the chain of command of what's being passed down through that lineage. And when you realize that this is a human, family-oriented business, that, and only then, succeed. Why can I say that? Because I'm a living testimony. When I was in the hospital, and my family, remind you, my mother had gone, and my family was either at school or at work. And who was there beside me? My supervisors.
Wow.
That is powerful. That the corporation I will time and time again always be willing to give back.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Love that. Absolutely love that. And you write on your Facebook profile, you say, I aspire and inspire others and act with integrity. What you see is what you get always. Now that is very powerful, Andrea. Those are a few words, but the message that they convey is really timeless. I want you to explain the meaning behind that to the audience, please.
Wow, that's the first time it was addressed. That was a long time ago. You know, with my life, I was always behind the curtain. I was always the FBI agent. I didn't want people to know so much because of the subconscious abandonment issues of being adopted. Of, you know, false promises, broken promises, saying they'll be there and show up and you're ready and they're not. So what I've done was when I began this journey and I decided to say, I'm going to take everything in my life and put it to the forefront.
Yes.
What you see is what you get. I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to dictate. I'm not here to lecture. And when I made a conscious decision that I was going to answer the call of being a global motivational speaker, someone who's always helping behind the scenes and has her signature, if you will, but not face, this was a leap that I was willing to take, because there was very slim individuals out there in the world to say, hey, I've been through this, but I'm still here and going. And when I made the decision after I graduated as an alumna of Dr. Brown's Power Voice Academy and met him in person last year, he was the real deal. And that's what I want to emulate.
Beautiful.
And when I decided to sit down in front of the camera 700 plus times now, I'm not here to sit in a corporate full background. This is a curtain. It's real.
Yeah.
I'm not here to sit prim and proper and tell you how to live your life. I'm here in a jersey or a hooded sweatshirt, or representing my favorite team, or being in the car. What you see is what you get. Because if I'm not authentic and I'm not trustworthy, then why am I even here?
Yes.
There's so much fake news out there. Be careful. Be careful what you follow. Make an investment in you, because what you put in your eyes, ears, mouth, body, mindset, and on in front of you, whatever that screen may be, or 3D, that is a reflection of you. And that's what I want to emulate. I'm just the same person as you are, just at a different chapter in my life.
Yes. Perfectly articulated. And I can't believe that our time together has flown. We are down to the last 2 questions. Can you believe that?
That's awesome. Excellent. An amazing journey.
It was, and I'm sure we're going to journey on, Andrea. I'm sure we're going to collaborate more. This is just too much fun.
Yes, that's the tip of the iceberg. Absolutely.
Yes. Tell me, Andrea, what is next for you? I know we can reach you at andreamasons.com, but what is the next project? How can we elevate you? How can we support you?
Absolutely. Coming down the pipe, I have just finished the production of a book, an ebook that is on its way.
Wow.
It is a daughter's story, how I went from a victim of bullying and abuse to becoming victorious. And the reason I chose victorious is in honor of my mother's name, Victoria. She has been the wheelhouse, the inspiration, and the power behind my perseverance and passion. Also, I have coming up in a couple of months or weeks, if not, we'll see how the chips fall. I am in collaboration with Mind, Body, and Wellness in a project that's coming up to get people active, as well as expanding individual and group coaching on areas of topics of, whether it be avoiding burnout and effective communication in the workplace, to children living their dreams and not their parents, to individuals lighting that spark and finding themselves, that they don't have to be lost. All their gifts, skills, and talents are within, and to help individuals achieve personal freedom through the healing power of forgiveness. For if we are unable to face our past, the past will continue to chase.
Yes, very, very true. Absolutely. And we are going to cheer you on, Andrea. We are going to cheer you on. We're going to pray for you. And we know you are going to excel and exceed. And it's so lovely to see you in your element and so happy and passionate about what you do. You love people, you love leadership, and you are transforming society. And I just want to say thank you so much before I ask you the last question. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, for bringing your knowledge and your experience, for taking the time to elevate others out there in society.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's been an honor, privilege, and pleasure. And, Matthew McConaughey said in one of his speeches, if you're lost, if you're trying to develop and find out who you are, carve out who you don't want to be, for in lies your true identity. Absolutely.
I love that. I love that. I love his quotes always. He's also a phenomenal public speaker, just like
Yes.
you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I do. I
It's
really
a pleasure, Andrea. Any final words of wisdom to the audience before we close off?
Absolutely. Through the toughest times, miracles are made, you and I. Through life's trials and tribulations, triumphs can be won. And once you learn to follow your heart and not the herd or the herd, happiness and success are on the other side. And in doing so, remind yourself in this crazy game of life, you have the right, privilege, ability, and free will to choose to press play, plan life according to you. And in light of that, I encourage each and every one of you to grab your cell phones and go to your email and type in am.pressplay@yahoo.com. And in the subject line, put in Meticulous Moments. So I know where you came from, to honor you, as time is a precious gift, can never be taken away, taken advantage of. But once given, it is truly a present. To connect with me for your complimentary connection. Thank you so much.
I love that. Thank you, Andrea. You have brought so much value and upliftment to the Meticulous Moments audience. And I agree with you. Let us go out there and share. Time is very important. Thank you so much for reaching out to the audience. I'm sure they will reach out to you as well so that you can take hands and form a leadership circle. That is just phenomenal. And to the audience, I just want to say thank you so much for being with us this evening, getting here, for listening to these wonderful tips and golden nuggets. Thank you. We will see you in the next session. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Goodbye.
Be well. Thank you.